Hi, welcome to video 7. This one's actually proven to be a difficult one to put together. Behind the scenes is difficult to put together. Um, okay, I'm going to touch on a lot of different subjects on this video. First of all, I want to hit some points that I want to elaborate on real quick after watching the earlier videos. Let's see what I have here. There's one thing that I'd really like to see happen is to get more people working together to make change. And there's two major camps of people that are both really desperate for change. These two camps are like your Occupy crowd, who still, I believe most of them are still blaming big business's involvement in government, rather than the fact that our government is just too big, period. Even though the business's involvement in government is the problem, definitely, no doubt. But they don't see the big government as the problem yet. I'm hoping that this video will open some of their eyes to that, and these videos. And then you have the Tea Parties on the other side, and they're desperate for change too, and they've got it right. They want to shrink the government, but they still, I'm pigeonholing here, which is what I'm asking you not to do. But the majority of the Tea Parties that I've read online anywhere, they still think that they still want to give the government jurisdiction over our bodies, over decisions that they really shouldn't have any jurisdiction over. In other words, I think that we should have the right to decide what we can and cannot put into our own bodies. We should make these decisions ourselves. It's not, government does not take the place, for those Tea Partiers out there, government does not take the place of God. Government, we don't pay government to come in and be God and teach morality and stuff. A lot of people are under the illusion that that's their job. That's not their job, that's the parents' job to do that, or the guardian's job to do that, or your church's job to do that, or whatever, whatever faith you happen to agree with. Paying the government to get involved in those issues is, I mean, just think what you could do if you had that money. To both camps, just think of what you could do if you had that, at least 20%. Figure out how much you spend in taxes to the government. 10%. In some areas, sales tax is 9 point some odd percent. But the sales tax, the property tax, even if you're a renter, you're paying somebody's property tax. Sales tax, property tax, income tax, state income tax, federal income tax, all these taxes that they hit us with, taxes for buying certain products. All those taxes, if you had all that money back, or even if you didn't have all of it back, even if you had 50% of it, let's face it, the government probably takes at least, even a low-income family that's only making like $10,000 a year, they're probably still spending at least probably about $1,500, $2,000 a year goes towards taxes and sales tax. I'm talking about all the taxes. And if you figure it out, even if you're a renter, you're paying somebody's property tax, so you're paying tax. You're paying those taxes, and if you had that extra money, I mean, you could afford to, a lot of these problems that we're throwing money at the government to solve, you can solve them yourself. I mean, you can buy a lot of this stuff that you need, and now I'm not saying that, we have to do away with the government's involvement in helping people altogether. I'm just saying that, imagine what you could do. A lot of these issues that like the Tea Parties have with I mean, just think what you could do with that money. I mean, if you had an extra 20% increase in tax, you could go back to a one-income household. A lot of you, where one person worked and the other person stayed home, or you could hire a teacher, a private teacher to come in and teach your kid, where you didn't have to send them off to the war zone, where with metal detectors and stuff like that. You could afford to buy. You could afford to go to school. We wouldn't need, we're basically, I'm suggesting that we cut out the middleman and paying the government to raise our to traffic our kids for us and to make sure that they're not on drugs and stuff like that is really kind of the parents' job and not the government's. And remember, we're paying for all this war on drugs. We're paying for all this. So these two camps are both wrong, and I'm hoping to convince you why you're wrong. And so I'm going to be going over those particular issues quite a bit because I would like to see you guys realize that we both have the same problem, and that's that our government is too big, and I mean big in all areas. That's including their involvement in our private lives. The government's job is not to enforce morals. So I'm going to skip to a different topic. Now that I've covered that, I wanted to jump to a different topic about really nice if the occupiers and the Tea Party could come to some kind of common ground, because that would give us a huge voting force. Even if we can only get a percentage out of each one, because I don't belong in either camp. I don't agree with either camp. I'm one of the few people. I think I'm one of the few sane people left in the country that actually see what the problem is. It's clear as day to me, and I'm hoping to show you all, that it's this simple. The Federal Reserve is the next thing I want to talk about. I want to get a little bit more into detail about the Federal Reserve. I think it's either unmonopolized. I think it's actually, I've been saying demonopolized, but I think it's actually unmonopolized. It's actually the correct term that I want to be using. I should probably look that up before I do these videos. But anyway, either demonopolized or unmonopolized the Federal Reserve. And there's going to be a lot more about this, but a lot of people are confused about how the Federal Reserve has screwed us. So I want to go into that just a little bit more in detail. I said earlier in one of the videos how the Federal Reserve actually obliterates private property. Let me explain how that is. Well, Robert Joes actually used this little analogy to explain it to me many, many years ago, and I'm going to use the same analogy because it puts it really into layman's terms. You're my kid, and I'm doing some cooking, and I need some milk. But I don't have the $2 for the gallon of milk. But I've been buying milk from the store down the street for 20 years, and the store owner knows me and he knows you. So I write out an IOU. I owe you $2 for a gallon of milk, and I give you the note and the IOU, and you skip down to the store and you buy the milk, and then the store owner sees it, gives you the milk, and then on the way back you drink the milk. Okay, now we go to court, and we're in court now. Same, me, you, and the store owner are in court, and the judge is there. Now in any court in the United States, this is what the judge would say. A lot of people want to say, well, possession is 9/10 of the law. Well, what's the other 10th? The 10th is ownership. Who owns the milk is the question. Now, in the court of law, who is the judge going to decide who owns the milk? Now, admittedly, the milk is in your belly, but you still don't own it. I own the milk because I wrote out the IOU. Because I wrote out the IOU, I own that milk. Now, the store owner can sue me for the $2 for the gallon of milk that he hasn't been paid, but by law, I own that milk. See, I can fix my nose. That already knows the last few days. That's why I keep going after my nose. So I own that milk in any court in the law. Now, the Federal Reserve in 1913 was put in a position, it was put into power, was given all this power, and they printed up all these IOUs. They wrote out all these notes. And they handed out all these notes to everybody in 1913. And it didn't take them long for everybody to run around with their IOUs and buy up all this milk. Okay, and everything in the all the milk was bought in the whole United States with their notes. Now remember what the judge is going to say. The judge is going to say whoever wrote out that note is the owner of that property. So you're out buying all this stuff. So they bought up everything. The whole entire United States was bought up by Federal Reserve notes from 1913 to 1929. And then in 1929, banks closed their doors. That's it. There's a lot more to that story as to why they did that and how they could do that lawfully. And because they cashed in on the debt. They cashed in on the debt and they closed up their doors in 1929 and that's when the New Deal came out and a whole bunch of socialist programs came out. And that's what happened. A lot of people say, well, in history in school you're going to hear in the communist schools you're going to hear that it was a Dust Bowl and the Tennessee Valley Authority and all that stuff. And you're going to hear about that. And I'm not saying that those issues didn't happen. What I am saying is that it was the Federal Reserve that did it. Another point I want to point out to you, if you notice in 1913, if you look in law books, you'll notice that a lot of unconstitutional laws started coming out about that time. That's when a lot of laws started coming out. The 20s with the speakeasies and prohibition came out in 1917. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. In 1917, we had prohibition. In fact, from 1913 on, we had World War I, World War II. We basically, since 1913, this country has been bombing the hell out of somebody since 1913. I should tell you something. My life, I'm 43 years old, I'll be 44 here in a few years. We've been at war my whole life. We've been bombing somebody my entire life. And if you're younger than me, you probably bombing at least 2 people your entire life. Just bombing, just killing people pretty indiscriminately. And the Federal Reserve they own everything. Because you bought it with their IOUs, technically in law, they own whatever it is. If they can prove that you bought it with their Federal Reserve note, they own it. And thus that's why the IRS is nothing more than the thugs for the Federal Reserve. That's why the IRS can legally come in and take everything you own and win in court every single time. Is because if you bought it with their notes, they own it. And really, because they're a private bank, they actually there's nothing preventing them from charging as much interest as they want on that. Pardon me, my nose. There's nothing preventing them from charging as much interest as they want. They're a private bank. They can charge whatever they want. And that's why the IRS wins in court every single time. And I know you're going to hear a lot of people saying that they've got, don't ever pay taxes and stuff like that. And there's really no law that says you have to and all. And I've heard those. And the thing is that as long as they can prove that you bought it with their Federal Reserve notes or some, can't think of the legal term now. All of a sudden, I'm kind of tired. A check or a credit card is the same thing as a legal term for it, but they're in the same evidence of the same type of note. It's still issued by the Federal Reserve. They still own it. It's just a different type of evidence of debt, still issued by the Federal Reserve Bank, and so they own it. That's why they actually do own everything that you have. They own it all. So that obliterates private property. Even though you think you own it, technically the IRS can't come in and take everything that you own, and because they actually do own it. Now you can sue them. Now if they were to come in and they didn't have any lawful venture, you can sue them for your gold and silver coin. But if you don't know that, then you don't know. You don't know it. You got to know this stuff. So it's just like the store owner. So anyway, that's that's how that works, and I'll go into that a little bit more detail later on. But all of the United States debt is in the currency they find the federal is in the Federal Reserve notes. It's all in the dollar bill, and because we purchase it with their currency, they own it. And any court in the country is going to agree with this. Now they're going to try and cloud the issue with all kinds of arguments because they don't want people to really understand this. So they hide it. They really are very clever in the way that they hide it. They really just kind of pretend like it's something else. They're very sneaky about the way that they hide this simple fact. But we're using their notes exclusively as an IOU, and that's it. We promise to pay with their notes. And let's see, let me skip ahead a little bit. I think that might be enough talk about the Federal Reserve. We have some big obstacles to come with monopolizing the Federal Reserve. Some big obstacles to overcome. But no, I got another thing where I'm going to be switching around to a different topic now. So let me see how much time I've got on this video. I've got about 15 minutes on this video. I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and come up with another one and see how this one came off. Hopefully it came up pretty good. So the next one's going to be on completely topic about. The next topic is about more regulation. More regulation on big business is not the answer. And